The movie starts off with a girl talking about her life. She is working on something important in her room, which is very messy. There are clothes scattered everywhere. The girl, whose name is Dani Sanders, is a very big personality. She is a social media influencer who has just been dragged into a very messy conspiracy. A hate train follows her everywhere she goes, and Dani hates it. Lots of other social media influencers turn against her and talk about how she is so privileged. This makes Dani really upset and anxious because she never wanted this. Her eyes are red due to excessive crying. Dani sobs uncontrollably because of all the backlash she has to face. Lots of people on the internet make fun of her and insult her, but none of this was Dani's intention. All she ever wanted was to be important and seen. She just wants to be loved by her fans. Dani has always wanted to be famous, but this soon turned out to be her worst nightmare. People on Twitter call her all sorts of names and even threaten her. Dani slams her laptop shut after seeing all the hurtful words. This all started about 2 months ago. Dani sits across from a woman who's trying to talk to her, but she doesn't seem interested. Dani just keeps looking at her phone to avoid the woman, who seems to be her boss. She jerks up as her boss calls out to her and reads an article that Dani has written. The article talks about mental health and loneliness. The boss isn't happy with the article and berates Dani for it. Dani tells her boss that she isn't really happy and feels lonely nowadays, but her boss doesn't want to listen to her. She tells Dani to just do her job and not make any excuses. Finally, Dani gets kicked out of her office. As she walks out, she meets another one of her coworkers. The coworker gets applauded by their boss, Susan, for a great article, and Dani gets really jealous of this. She walks away from Susan's cabin and tries to talk to all the other people there, but they seem to be disinterested. They all ignore her. Dani notices this and gets upset. She feels like she doesn't belong there and that nobody likes her. As she is walking around her office, she sees a really handsome guy. He is smoking and talking about his recent trip. All the other people surrounding him and record his actions to post on social media. It seems that the guy is very famous. Dani observes all his activities. She is very fascinated by it. She then realizes that she has to go back to work. She rushes to her workstation, where her annoying coworker, Kelvin, starts irritating her. Dani just ignores him and gets back to work. She feels like nobody understands her. The day ends, and Dani proceeds to walk out of her office. In the elevator, she overhears her coworkers talking about a party. Dani wants to be invited as well, so she tries to blend in, but they despise her. They try to ignore her because they don't want to invite her to the party. Dani understands this and walks out of her office. Dani is a very hyperactive girl. In a desperate attempt to win people over, she says all the wrong things. As she has no friends, she calls her mom to hang out with her, but even she is busy. This makes Dani frustrated. While going home, she takes her antidepressants to feel less lonely and overwhelmed. She walks down the road, and that's when she runs into the handsome guy from the office. His name is Colin, and he has a very large following on social media. Dani tries to impress Colin by talking about how he's so handsome and cool. In an attempt to woo him, she also smokes with him. The two start talking about traveling. Dani gets an idea, and she lies to Colin, saying she's going to Paris very soon. This lie gets her into a lot of trouble. Colin finally bids her goodbye, and Dani realizes that she's in a lot of trouble. She runs back to her apartment and starts cursing herself for the lie. She can't even afford the ticket to Paris, and she doesn't know what she will do next. At that moment, her guinea pig runs on the keyboard. This gives Dani a great idea. Instead of actually going to Paris, she plans to fake it all. She decides that she will just use Photoshop to pretend as if she's in Paris. Dani immediately calls her boss and her mother to tell them that she has an invitation to go to a very big event in Paris. Everyone thinks she's lying, but Dani tries her hardest to prove that she's actually in Paris. She goes to the airport and buys fake tickets to Paris. She stays locked up in her apartment and starts editing photos to make it seem like she's traveling all around Paris. She clicks photos, edits them to look French, and even makes it seem like she visited the Eiffel Tower. Everyone around her thinks she's crazy. Dani stays in her room all night and edits a bunch of photos just so she can be famous. She's doing all this in order to fit in and have friends. Soon, Dani's plan starts to take off. She ends up getting a lot of followers and messages from fans. This encourages her to continue her lie. Even Colin starts following her. Dani gets very excited at this and continues on with her mission. She finally falls asleep, thinking her life is going to be a lot better. Dani wakes up the next morning to find her phone dead. She desperately reaches for the charger and plugs it into her phone. When her phone finally opens, she sees tons of messages flooding her DMs. When she opens her phone, she discovers some shocking news. The news says that Paris has been brutally attacked by terrorists. Many famous places had been bombed and compromised by the attackers. Dani freaks out, thinking that her lie will be caught now. She has so many people calling her and asking if she's okay. Her parents call her, and they are crying. Dani tries to tell them the truth, but doesn't know how to do it. She finally hangs up and tries to think of a way to get out of this mess. As she's planning her next move, she gets a message from Colin. This makes her realize that she can gain a lot of sympathy from this incident. She puts up an Instagram story saying she's okay and well. Danny thinks that telling people the truth will just make them hate her even more. So she gets dressed up and goes to the airport. She pretends that she's back from Paris. On the way, she meets her parents, who hug her tightly and cry. They're really worried about their daughter. Danny makes sure the news reporters see her and tells everyone that she's okay. One lie causes Danny to tell 1,000 more lies. She goes back to her parents' house, where her father just doesn't stop crying. Even her mother panics, thinking Danny is traumatized. She calls multiple doctors and therapists to make sure her daughter gets better. Danny's parents are extremely rich, which is why she never had to work growing up. Because of this, Danny hated working at an office and wanted an easy way to make money. She continues telling all sorts of lies and even says that she almost died because of the bombings in Paris. When she checks her phone, she sees thousands of messages from people telling her to get well soon. This makes her happy and she thinks she is finally famous. Her plan to become important was really taking off. At night, Danny's parents make sure she's okay and she finally goes to sleep. Even in her dreams, she sees that she's in Paris. Danny imagines herself in the bombing area and thinks of stories to tell her coworkers and relatives. She wants to make sure that her lie is really believable. The next day, Danny goes back to work. Everyone in the office stares at her, and Danny feels amazing. She finally has people noticing her and even praising her for being so strong. Susan rushes out of her office and tells Danny that she doesn't have to work because of the trauma she has faced. Everyone in the office claps for her and makes sure she feels wanted and loved after all that she has been through. But no one has any idea that this is all fake. Danny is just so happy that she finally has the attention she's always wanted. She decides to keep up with the lie and brews up some fake story about how she survived the attack. She plans to write an article about it in order to get even more famous than before. Danny suddenly starts getting all the attention in her office. Every one of her coworkers begins to encircle her. They ask her what actually happened, and Danny makes up a fake story to tell them all. She even goes so far as to say that she actually saw the terrorist. This makes everyone sympathize with her. They offer their condolences and tell her that they're always there for her. Danny continues on saying that she already knew something bad was about to happen, and as she walked away, the big explosion occurred. All her coworkers appreciate her for being so strong. That's when Colin calls out to her. Danny thinks that she finally has his attention. She runs up to Colin, and he starts flirting with her. Danny gets really excited and reciprocates the feelings. Eventually, Danny thinks that her life has taken a turn, but she's still not satisfied. She wants to be more famous, which is why she starts making up even more lies. At home, Danny writes about her fake experience. She Googles everything that she's about to write, and even goes to a survivors group to steal their trauma and experiences. She listens to everyone and jots down all their triggers, and even mimics their emotional state. Danny doesn't feel an ounce of guilt for what she's doing. She just smiles and listens to everyone. The therapist there asks Danny to share her experience. In an attempt to divert attention, she pretends that she's in a lot of pain and trauma. She tells the people there that she doesn't want to talk about it. They understand her, and another one of the bombing survivors starts talking to her. He consoles her, saying everything will be all right. Danny listens to the man carefully and even sympathizes with him for a while. That's when another one of the girls there starts to describe her experience. The girl, whose name is Rowan, happens to be a school shooting survivor. Rowan talks about how her life is monotonous but also really scary. Danny pretends to relate to her and tries to seek attention by saying that she just feels numb all the time. After the session ends, Rowan consoles Danny and tells her that she's excited to meet her in the next session. As she is about to walk out, Danny sees that Rowan is also very famous. She pretends to have lost her belongings and strikes up a conversation with Rowan. She gets Rowan's number and decides to stalk her. That's when Danny sees that Rowan is a very big activist. Not only is she famous, but she is also very well liked by the people. Rowan has lots of interviews with immensely famous people and talks about how she survived dangerous school shootings. She has a very large following, and Danny instantly gets jealous. She wants to have the same platform as Rowan and starts thinking of ways to join campaigns and organizations to become famous. Danny immediately begins following Rowan and making tone-deaf comments on her Instagram posts. She doesn't feel remorse, guilt, or sympathy for Rowan's trauma and activism. All she wants is to use Rowan so that she can gain a large fan base and become largely famous. But as Danny goes on listening to Rowan's speech, she feels pain. She can hear the grief in Rowan's voice when she talks about her best friend dying right in front of her. Rowan criticizes various leaders and organizations for failing to enact strict gun laws. Danny keenly listens to Rowan and feels sorry for her. Slowly but surely, Danny starts stalking Rowan. She follows Rowan wherever she goes, and then pretends to have just run into her. Even when she's with Rowan, Danny makes really offensive jokes in order to blend in, but Rowan just ignores them and tries to make sure Danny is okay. The two start walking around to clear their heads while having a normal conversation. Rowan tells Danny that she has to come to the support group often, because it helps survivors a lot. Danny feels awkward but says that she will be there. While walking through the city, Rowan tries to help Danny come to terms with her emotions, but Danny doesn't feel a thing. She tries to get Rowan to help her write an article about the bombing so that she can be famous too. Danny tells her that she feels really stuck and just wants an outlet for the trauma. Even though it's all a lie, Rowan believes Danny and agrees to help. But before that, Rowan takes her to a rage space. There, she asks Danny to just take her anger and emotions out. Danny doesn't know how to, but Rowan helps her through it. Soon enough, Danny starts feeling all the pain and numbness that she had, because no one ever liked her. She remembers how all her coworkers avoided her and excluded her from parties. Danny uses those feelings to express her rage. What started as a joke and a cry for attention quickly turns serious for Danny. She actually starts to feel a lot better than she did before. Danny thanks Rowan for it, and that's when Rowan tells her that she uses that very rage to write her article. She tells Danny that she has to use her rage and anger to get people's attention. Danny has to attack the problem and use her pain as her biggest asset. Finally, Danny gets the idea, and so she runs back home. She jumps right into her article and starts writing everything that Rowan told her. As expected, her article blows up. Danny's article gets a lot of attention, and everyone in her office reads it. They all feel emotional and heartbroken as they read it, not knowing that it is all a lie. Her article encourages people to think about themselves as well. Through the article, Danny urges everyone around her to take care of their mental health and speak up against injustice. Everyone, including Susan and Colin, read Danny's article and sob hysterically because of the raw emotions in it. Because of the article, everyone pays even more attention to Danny. They include her in their cliques and invite her to parties. Unknowingly, Danny creates a whole Twitter hashtag that gets really popular as well. Rowan also reads the article and is astounded to discover that almost everything Danny has written are actually her words. But even then, she decides to ignore it, while also promoting Danny's article. The article reaches new heights after Rowan's shout-out. Her hashtag gains even more popularity, and people all over the world share their traumatic experiences with its help. Even huge influencers use the hashtag to talk about their pain and trauma. One small hashtag stirs up a mental health check for everyone in the world. A week passes by, and Danny goes back to the support group. The therapist there asks Danny how she feels, and she tells them all that it feels amazing. She adds that admitting her pain and grief made it a lot easier for her to accept the trauma. At that moment, Rowan looked really proud of her as well. But then, Danny reassures her, saying that she'll do amazing, and they continue chatting. Halfway through, Rowan tells Danny about her older sister and how much they loved each other. In turn, Danny adds that she's always wanted a sister, but then the air gets really tense. With a distraught face, Rowan tells Danny that her older sister actually died in the shooting and walks away. At the office, Susan throws a huge party for the success of Danny's article. Everyone present there cheers her on and praises her for being so strong. Danny thanks them all and enjoys the attention she's getting. Colin suddenly approaches her while she is typing on her phone. He congratulates her on her success and even invites her to his party the following weekend. Danny readily agrees and pumps her hands in the air after he walks away. As she's going for seconds, one of Danny's coworkers named Harper comes to her and starts forcing her to talk more about the tour. Danny tells her all about the retreat and the invitation. But that's when Harper inquires more about it. She's already suspicious of Danny's lies. Danny then makes up some excuses and runs away from the scene to not get caught. This makes Harper more confused, so she decides to do some research of her own. The weekend comes, and Danny goes to Colin's party. Almost everyone there recognizes her, and she feels enthralled to see it all. The party is just packed with influencers and celebrities. Suddenly, Colin comes up to her and hugs her. He introduces her to everyone present there, and the media starts hounding her for photos. Danny sponsors lots of brands, and even gets collaboration offers from large companies. But slowly, Danny starts to get deeper and deeper into the lie. People often ask her questions about the attack and the places she visited, but she always ends up being silent during them. Even at the party, she runs away from people who try to inquire more about Paris. After a while, Danny and Colin spend more time together and take shots with one another. Danny feels like she has finally accomplished everything. Colin gets even more interested in her because she's so famous now. They continue drinking, and Colin decides to take a video of the two. But that's when Danny begins to see frightening images of the bomber at the party. She asks Colin if there's someplace quiet that they can go to. Danny just wants to be alone, but Colin takes it as an invitation to make out with her. They end up going to the bathroom, where they kiss and take things further. But after getting intimate, Danny panics and runs away from the party. She scrolls through Instagram to see that Colin has already found some new girls to hang out with. Danny realizes that Colin had just used her, and he had never wanted to be with her. This makes her disgusted, but that's when she sees Rowan's Instagram story. The whole support group is participating in a softball match, and Danny decides to join them. Having nowhere to go, she meets up with Rowan and dresses up for the match. All of them end up having loads of fun together. They jump up and cheer for each other as well. For the first time, Danny feels as though she has true friends of her own. She enjoys herself thoroughly throughout the whole night. Towards the end, the group part ways to go back home, and that's when Rowan and Danny decide to take a walk together. They talk about sweet things all the way and have fun. While walking, Danny even lets Rowan take a sip of her beer to make her feel rebellious. They talk about their lives and their experiences so far. That's when Rowan confesses that Danny is a lot like her late sister. She gets very emotional as she thinks about her sister and how she had a whole life ahead of her that got taken away. Danny urges Rowan to talk more about her sister, but Rowan just says that she can't. She can't fight for justice without getting emotional. The air gets really tense at that moment, so Danny decides to change the topic. She tries her best to console Rowan and even offers to do something really fun next week, but Rowan declines the offer. She invents excuses, such as having a lot of work to do, and even rallies to attend. Danny understands that Rowan just wants to be alone at the moment. She offers to help Rowan lead the rallies, and even tries to make up slogans for her. Danny reassures Rowan that she'll always be there for her. Rowan gets really emotional and hugs Danny tightly. She finally leaves, and Danny is left with a huge, sinking feeling. She starts to feel really guilty about all that she has done. Because of this, she decides to actually start helping people and raising her voice for the needy. The following day, Danny gets called for an interview. There, she gets asked a lot of questions about the bombings, and the interviewer even praises her for being so strong and standing up against terrorists. Danny uses this platform to make people aware of others' suffering and trauma. Days pass by, and Danny goes to her workplace. As she's watching her interview on her laptop, Harper comes up to her, asking for some help. Danny happily agrees to help Harper, and finally leaves the office to go to Rowan's rally. While walking out, she runs into Colin, who tries to talk to her, but Danny has had enough. She doesn't like Colin at all, and realizes that he's just an annoying person. Colin tries to flirt with her, but Danny just ignores him and walks away. She invents excuses, such as having a lot of work to do, and even attends rallies. She uses this opportunity to go through it, and find out more about Danny's trip. On the other hand, Danny finally meets up with Rowan. She gets into the car and sees the therapist from the support group. It turns out that the therapist, whose name is Linda, is actually Rowan's mother. Together, all of them go to the rally. Rowan starts to get really nervous because she has led the whole rally. Danny tries to reassure her, saying everything will be okay, but this doesn't help at all. That's when Danny starts playing music and dancing to cheer Rowan up. She wants to make Rowan feel happy and motivated to do the right thing. Eventually, the two start yelling songs at the top of their lungs and laughing. Danny and Rowan finally arrive at the destination and see loads of people waiting for them. A group of security guards escort them to the main rally. Rowan jumps on the stage, and everyone in the audience cheers for her. They start chanting that they've had enough and fight for their rights. Amidst all this, Danny starts to feel that she also has to raise her voice. She joins Rowan on the stage, and together they encourage the crowd to fight. Danny takes the microphone and starts her speech, which is dedicated to Rowan's older sister. She becomes very emotional and discusses how Rowan's sister should have lived a long life, but that gun violence took it away from her. She ends up giving a very heartfelt speech, but halfway through, she sees the bomber again. This makes her panic, but she doesn't budge. Instead, she tries to make her voice even louder. That's when lots of firecrackers fall on the stage. As they blast, everyone screams, and chaos ensues. Rowan ends up having a panic attack and is escorted out by the security guards. Danny tries to console her, but Rowan is almost unconscious because of the blast. Tons of news reporters hound Danny to get her reaction, but she ignores them. Eventually, Rowan gets taken to the hospital after her condition worsens. Danny also goes to the hospital to check on Rowan. At the hospital, Danny reads all the tweets and messages aimed against Rowan. She sees all the hatred Rowan is receiving, which makes her sob uncontrollably. After a while, Linda tells Danny that Rowan is a lot better now. Danny finally feels relieved and immediately goes to meet Rowan. She tries to console Rowan, saying everything will be okay, but Rowan is already defeated. She feels as though all her rallies have now been useless. Danny tells her that it's alright and that they'll fight again. But right at that moment, Danny sees the bomber. She starts to freak out because of this, and immediately tries to go home. Linda stops her midway through, and thanks her for being so strong. But the guilt is eating away at Danny. She feels immense regret for the lie that she said. She runs home while having a mental breakdown, because she cannot stand the thought of lying again. At home, she lays down on her sofa, and contemplates all that she's said and done. She then begins to hear whispering voices. When she follows it, she finds herself back in Paris. She starts panicking, thinking that she's going to die in the bombing. Right then, she sees the bomber right in front of her. But much to her surprise, the bomber has her face. That's when she jerks up and realizes that all of this was a very terrifying nightmare. She's still groggy after just waking up, when there's a knock on the door. It's none other than Harper at her doorstep. Danny opens the door, and Harper walks inside, looking really angry. When asked what's wrong, Harper starts asking Danny all kinds of questions about Paris. Then she starts talking about how almost everything that Danny has said until now seems like a lie. Danny starts to get anxious, thinking her lie has been caught. She tries to defend herself, but that's when Harper pulls out her laptop and shows Danny all the evidence about her massive lie. Danny gets really scared and begs Harper to stay quiet. She adds that she's a very changed person now, and that she didn't mean for this to happen. All she wanted was to get Colin's attention and make some new friends, but Harper stops her. She calls Danny all sorts of names and even insults her for being so heartless. Danny tries to bribe Harper by saying that she'll give her a lot of money to shut up. She even tries to emotionally blackmail her, but Harper doesn't care. She gives Danny two choices: either come out about her lie herself, or get exposed brutally in an article. Harper storms out of the apartment, leaving Danny feeling really defeated and anxious. Danny walks back and forth in her apartment, thinking of a solution, but to no avail. She has no choice but to admit the truth. She looks at Rowan and feels guilty for leading her on. That's when Danny decides that it's time to speak the truth. She comes clean and writes a whole article about her lie. Danny explains in great detail what she has done and apologizes profusely for her actions. She promises that she'll do better and even talks about why she decided to take this step. She admits that she had no friends and that her life was just too monotonous. Finally, Danny publishes the article, and within seconds, she starts to get notifications. The backlash increases, and Danny just tries to stay calm through it all. She starts to get thousands of messages insulting her and even asking her to vanish off the face of the earth. At school, one of Rowan's friends shows her the article, which instantly enrages her. She runs to Danny's office in order to confront her and ask for answers to all the questions running through her mind. Once there, Rowan questions her about everything. She asks Danny about the truth. Danny tries to talk to Rowan and apologize for her mistake, but Rowan just screams at her and completely breaks down. Susan comes just in time and fires Danny for all her wrongdoings. Danny gets kicked out of her office, while Susan and the whole office apologize to Rowan for the article and Danny's mistake. Danny goes back home only to find people yelling at her and calling her all sorts of names. People in the streets try to hit her and attack her because they're just so enraged. Danny hides in her apartment while looking at all the hate directed her way. The netizens even leak her personal information and address to the public. Ultimately, her life is in danger. Every day, people tell Danny to take her own life, and she can't take it anymore. Danny goes back to her parents' house, but they don't even speak to her. Her mother yells at her for being so insensitive and admits that they've all been getting death threats. Danny sobs and begs for forgiveness, but her mother just ignores her and walks away. That night, Danny decides to stay away from social media. She deletes all of her accounts and gets some rest. Danny takes a long break, and a month passes by. She finally has the courage to go outside, but gets jumped by people. After months of being cooped up in her house, Danny goes to a support group. She tries to talk about her feelings there, but gets shamed instead. The leader there asks Danny to personally apologize to all the people she has hurt, and she agrees. Danny goes to the theater after summoning all of her courage to hear Rowan recite her poems. She sits down on the seat and waits for Rowan to show up. Danny plans to apologize to her by climbing on stage and admitting her mistake. She memorizes her speech by heart and patiently waits for her turn. After a couple minutes, Rowan comes up on stage and recites her poem, which is directly aimed at Danny. The poem has the raw rage that Rowan feels. She cries while reciting the poem and finally ends it by saying that maybe she'll forgive Danny someday in the future, but it definitely isn't today. Everyone in the audience cheers for Rowan and claps. They encourage her to talk more about her feelings and assure her that they're all with her. At that moment, Danny realizes that her apology is going to mean absolutely nothing. It's only going to hurt Rowan more. Her actions don't deserve forgiveness, and Danny understands that. She realizes that she only wants forgiveness in order to feel good about herself. Danny hasn't really learned anything up until now, and that's when she decides to take the right step. She gets up and simply leaves the theater, because that's what's right at the moment. Danny vows to come back and apologize when she has finally grown as a person. The movie ends with Danny just walking out of everyone's life and taking a break in order to really improve as a person and become more empathetic.